and meeting somebody I don't even know and spending the night in the hotel. For brothers and sisters alike, and the reason I say brothers and sisters alike, we find these scenarios very much prevalent in Muslim communities. And then they come back to their homes and they think about it. The first thing which Muslims mention is this fear of guilt, this feeling of low mood. Naturally, the effects of that morally would be a person would be lethargic, would be destructive, behavioral problems, anger problems, all these things come up. They come in the queue. But when a person is married, they know that when they come into wedlock, they are coming into the laws of Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What has the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said? That when a man puts food upon the mouth of his wife, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him such reward like the acceptance of a maqbool or an accepted umrah. A person who spends thousands of pounds and goes out to Makkah and to Medina and comes from Masjid al-Aisha to Tawaf, from Tawaf to Sa'i, from Sa'i to Medina. So much work to do a umrah, to do all that small pilgrimage. For that man who lifts a morsel through love and puts it upon the tongue of his wife for her to eat, with the intention that Allah be happy with him because he's doing it in a halal manner, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards him in such a way that Allah gives him the reward of an accepted umrah. But that person who goes for umrah, does all those things, from spending so much money after doing the acts of the small umrah or the small hajj, the rituals, they still have this question mark. Is it accepted or is it not? When a person places the food upon the tongue of his wife, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him such reward. When a woman puts a smile upon the face of her husband, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives her the similar reward. When a woman is fulfilling the rights of her family, of her husband, of her children, then the reward of such is monumental. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they were such. Once a companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a female companion came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, Ya Rasulullah, the men have beaten us. They come to you, they sit in your lectures, they learn directly from you. Ya Rasulullah, they are with you 24/7. We women don't have this opportunity. We've got little children to look after. We have the chores of the home to do. We have other responsibilities for which we don't get this chance and opportunity. The Prophet ﷺ said, and listen to this example, a man, a sahabi, a companion, who leaves his home, leaves his work, and stays with the Prophet, not with any alim or any scholar, or with any shaykh or any imam, with the noble messenger ﷺ, benefits from the Prophet, learns from the Prophet, and that woman, who gives a good upbringing to children, her children. Of course, the men have a similar responsibility, which we'll talk about later on, and about the rights and responsibilities. But the Prophet said, a woman who gives a good upbringing to her child. So actually a child is more inclined towards the mother because of her bearing that child. So this mother takes the responsibility to look after that child, or children, gives them a good upbringing, with good conduct and character. The Prophet ﷺ said to the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, to the females, that you've got exactly the same reward as that person who's come, sat in my company, benefited from me, and then has learned and passed that information on to others. You have too received the same reward. Don't think that person, because that man has come out and been in my company, he'll beat you to Jannah. By Allah, he won't beat you to Jannah. As long as you fulfill the rights of your children, you fulfill the rights of your whole household, you maintain a good, strong household. The Prophet ﷺ said, it is possible that you will beat that man and you will enter Jannah before that person. But again, there are shared responsibilities which we will talk about later on. So these are moral benefits. And finally, the spiritual benefit. The spiritual benefit is such that naturally when a person marries, their spiritual relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately accelerates. Through marriage, a person is becoming more responsible. You have to make many more sacrifices. You can't just think of myself, brothers, I know how it is. You want to hang out late at night with the brothers. Hang out for football from 9 till 11, and you come home in your own pace, have a shower, chill out, go on the PSP or whatever it is, PlayStation 3 for a short while, bit of a chat on the Facebook, and hit the sack. Trust me, that'll change when you get married. It's different. For the sisters, it's the same. But unfortunately, us brothers are much more lazy than sisters. Sisters are much more responsible. And you might think that our brother Yusuf made a comment there, it's not right. It's the truth. Your mothers, face the facts. Majority of the times, a mother is much more responsible than the father. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said to the companion who asked, Ya Rasulullah, who shall I give my haqq, my rights to? He said, your mother. And he said, who next? He said, your mother. Then who next? Your mother. Who next? Your father. Why? Because naturally the mother has to go through much more responsibility. And us young men, we need to at times, when we get married, we will see. We have got many more responsibilities. And naturally, when a person has more responsibilities, you have to make more sacrifices. And then trust me, for the brothers who find it difficult to wake up for Fajr, and for the sisters who find it difficult to wake up for Fajr, when you get married, it's a piece of cake. Because, especially if you have got children, if you've got a young one, you'll have to wake up 3, 4, 5 times during the night. And you can't say to your missus or to your wife, sort you out. She'll give you a slap, tell you sort you out. I look after him all day, you look after him now. So it's a relationship where we compromise, but at the same time we sacrifice. And that sacrifice makes our ruhani, our spirituality, accelerate. So these are 5 things which we should keep in mind. And inshallah, as we go along through the next 6 weeks, we'll learn much more from this. What are the negatives of marriage? There are some negatives of marriage. I know some brothers are yawning, but inshallah we'll come to it and very shortly. What are the negatives of marriage? Some of the negatives of marriage, we can't say marriage is always hunky-dory. There are some negatives. What are the negatives of marriage? Anybody? So you also brother? From the brothers? Sisters, take out 1 minute of your time now and share what do you think would be the negatives of marriage while we brothers discuss the same. What are the negatives of marriage?
You lose your freedom.
Sorry?
You lose your freedom.
Well done. Absolutely so. Absolutely. And the brother has said, honestly, for us young men, you lose your freedom big time. What else? Sisters of one of the brothers said there was, we have to take our wives to clothes shops. I agree with you. But at the same time, of course, the sisters, I'm sure they're coming with other, opposite arguments. What else?
You lose your hair goes white.
The brother's hair goes white. You might lose your hair. What else?
You go far.
Right? You put on weight. Okay.
Stress related.
So these are factors which are inevitable in marriage. By Allah. The negatives we find within marriage, the positives are 1,000 times better. There might be little negatives, but the positives are 1,000 times better. Inshallah, I don't give it away now, but you'll find later on what are the positives from that. Now, one of the things I put on my notes here, the importance of marriage because of the rise of promiscuity. Now, why? What I mean by that is, in simple language, sex before marriage. We find that in a rate, right? And Allah. I live in a small town of Sunderland. A population of Muslims would be about 6,000 maximum. And 2 weeks don't go past where there's the issue of problems amongst young people. I have colleagues who are Imams in bigger cities like Bradford, Birmingham, London, Muslim populated areas. And they say, Yusuf, forget 2 weeks, forget 1 week, every other day we find this problem. Every other day, because a young person, a young brother or a young sister doesn't want to know the Imam. The Imam carry on with the job. But when it comes to problems of marriage, when it comes to a relationship, the first person that understands is the Imam. Funny, forget the Imam is a boring person, his responsibility is the masjid. But when it comes to marriage, when it comes to somebody to compromise with the parents, when it comes to love and relationships, for some odd reason we find every other day a case within the Muslim community where the Imams need to be involved to solve these problems. And why does this happen? The reasons for this is, as I said earlier, we live in a society, not just in England, not just in America, but in the majority of the world now, this free thinking. We find, Allahu Akbar, I don't want to mention the names, in Muslim countries, where men and women who are not married, going out on a Friday and a Saturday, or even another part of the week, with one intention in mind. What is that? To fulfill their carnal desires, sex before marriage. We find married men, Allahu Akbar, married men. Once a youngster said to me, Imam, I went out one night, and I was enjoying myself, and he was, alhamdulillah, he's changed now. Allah give him istiqamah, Allah give him strength. He said, I was drinking away, and I was on the bottom floor of the Glass Spider. It's one of the pubs in Sunderland. And he goes, as I was enjoying myself, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, on a Saturday night, suddenly, apparently, I don't know, I've never been into it, but apparently it's upstairs as well. Because suddenly I see my father dancing upstairs. Because I didn't know what to do. The corner of my eye met with the full vision of my father. Because I left everything and I ran for my life. Because the next morning, it was a Sunday morning, I saw my father. And again, it shows how low we have become. How low we have become. We woke up in the morning, he goes, I was dreading it. I didn't know what my father was going to say to me. And he woke up in the morning, and he said to me, all right, so did you enjoy last night? Because we woke up in the morning, and my father said to me, all right, son, did you enjoy last night? And then he said to me, he took me to a corner, he said to me, son, dare you say anything to your mother? Subhanallah. He said, son, dare you say anything to your mother? You'll be out of the door. So we find Muslims going through these scenarios, where the father's dancing upstairs, the son's dancing, singing downstairs. We find it funny, we laugh at it, but by Allah it is the reality. This is how low Muslims have become. Allahu Akbar. And why? Simple answer, because we have moved away from the teachings of Allah and His noble Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet has surely said the truth when he said that I leave behind two things. You hold on to them strong and firm with your jawa'id, with your back teeth tight, that you will never go astray. And what are those two things, brothers? The Quran and the Sunnah. You hold on to them firm, you will never go astray. So anyway, so the rise of relationship and sex before marriage is in the increase. Reasons for that is lewdness, pornography, the free-minded thinking. And, some of the scholars, we have this debate in the Muslim community about the veil, the niqab, the covering of the face. Is it religious or not? What is the Islamic principle around that? Majority of the ulama, of your opinion, and majority say this, that at the time of fitna, at the time of tribulations, it is advised for women to cover their face. Though this is the fatwa or the verdict is not upon this, as long as a woman covers her hair, that is sufficient. She doesn't have to cover her face. But the reason, why did the ulama and the scholars write this? Why did the ulama and the scholars go to the extent to say a woman should cover her face as well? Because a time of bestiality, of beasts and of the nature of beasts will come out from the men. And let me tell you why I say this. A brother once came to me, and the reason I think I find myself in the opportunity to share this with him. He said to me, brother, whenever I sit in lectures, or whenever I go to work, for some reason, my eye keeps on falling upon women. And you might, Allahu Akbar, when I said about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشًا, surely zina and fornication and adultery is so low that it leads towards lewdness, towards a man becoming like an animal. He said, and the ayah of the Quran came to mind when he said this to me. He said to me, when my eye falls upon the woman, when my eye falls upon her hand, listen to this, when my eyes fall upon her hand, upon her arms, upon her shoulders, upon her stomach. He said this to me. He goes, when my eyes fall upon her back, just her, not the rear end, but just above her back. When my eyes fall upon her feet, I get lazza and pleasure for it. And what did the Prophet ﷺ say about fornication and zina? He said, fornication and zina is not just from the private parts. The Prophet ﷺ said, O Muslims, safeguard your eyes. For a man to look upon another woman with pleasure and ogling at them, and for a woman to look at a man with pleasure and to ogle at them is zina of the eyes.